want to remind you folks that I am not an expert whatsoever on this. I am answering questions that have been asked of me, and I am still trying to debunk some of the older videos that I have watched that really fearmonger, and they're just giving real bad information, folks, okay? I'm going to give simple, very inexpensive ways to do what you need to in case something happens, or when it happens, or so you will be ready with minimal cost. Mostly it's going to be, you know, keeping this straight up here, right? Because that's half the battle is keeping this productive, but an even keel, thinking outside the box, right? Thought is free, correct? Thought is free. Hey folks, back again. I got a lot done today, so I'm pretty pleased with myself. I have not gotten to any of the comments from yesterday or today. I generally do those over coffee in the morning, and I knew there was a storm coming in, so I got right up this morning and you know, started getting everything done. We got snow falling, and the winds picked up. I guess we're going to get horrible winds tonight. So, I'm going to do part 1 of prepper burnout. They're prepping not only food, but they're prepping other things, right? So, I'm going to touch on food today. Now, if I've heard so many comments, so many people emailed me and said, you know, I'm just so tired of prepping. It's like being in a job that you've been in, and it just gets monotonous, and you wonder if it's all worth the time, money, and effort. And I'm just tired of prepping. I need to step back, but I want to stay active. I want to, you know, continue prepping in some way. So, if you're tired of the food prep, I got a rooster after a duck. You can organize. You can go in and maybe dust them off. Maybe you can take inventory. It's really good, especially if you're rotating your food like you should be. You should keep an ongoing inventory of of what you've got, and maybe you can find creative ways to disguise food. There's a lot of places to hide things. So, you know, maybe, and somebody mentioned a while back how they stacked cases of canned goods up and then just put a cloth over them and made it into a like a little stand. So you can do all that stuff. Be thinking of maybe finding some very simple, basic recipes, biscuit recipes, bread recipes that you can cook the unconventional way. Okay. Now, down in my playlist, I did a video way back on how to make pan bread on the wood stove. It's so simple. It's so easy. There's very few ingredients. And that's done right on top of the wood cook stove. There's a lot of biscuits and a lot of recipes out there for bread that you can make unconventionally, especially biscuits. There's like 3 ingredient biscuits. You might want to look that up. So you can be practicing those basic skills. Put them down in a notebook or something in case there's no access to your phone or your computer. All right. So that's one thing, and practice those. Practice makes perfect, right? The more you do it, the more comfortable you get to doing it. So when it's needed, it's right there. And maybe you want to practice cooking on an open fire, or, you know, I'm going to say your propane grill, but what if the propane runs out and you don't have access to any more? Same with charcoal. There's always going to be sticks and branches and stuff. that you can make a fire with. Now, you're also going to need cinder blocks or some sort of a fire. You need to start a forest fire or a fire in the neighborhood, and the drier the wood, the less smoke, folks, okay? So you're going to have to find a way to store some wood so it's dry. Even if you cut it green and you store it somewhere where it's not going to get rained on or snowed on, it's going to dry, folks. Now, I don't know if any of you folks know what a Dakota fire pit is. If not, you need to research that, and it would be a really good idea to practice that technique, okay? All it is you're digging a hole in the ground, 2 holes in the ground, and you're building a fire, and it's got to have a draft. Research how to do a Dakota fire. There's got to be videos on YouTube about it. One thing that I think a lot of people overlook when they are prepping, you know, they've got their food, they've got everything that they need. What if you are the scavenger? What if something happened to all your preps, and maybe you have a backup place, and maybe something happened to that, somebody found it and they took up residence, you were forced out of your house, you can't go to your secondary location, and you are the one that needs to go in the woods, set up camp, and scavenge for food, okay? You got to think of it that way too, because, you know, your house could catch on fire, anybody could torch it. That's an awful thought, but, you know, 1 location is good, 2 is better, 3 is even better, all right? So for that, what you need to have resources, okay, or available resources. If you are forced out into the woods, you're going to have to learn how to build a Dakota fire, okay? You're going to have to learn how to build a fire, period. You're going to have to stay warm, cook food, gather your food. Foraging is so important, folks, not only for food to eat, but medicinal food. So, you know, while you're you know, taking a break from the actual food prep and buying it and storing it and everything in between, right? You could be looking for those places in the woods. You could be learning the foraging skills in your area, what is safe, what is not safe. You could be learning, you know, how to make a Dakota fire pit. You could be learning, research. Just do a lot of research, write it down, write everything down, even if it has to be step by step by step. Because if we are learning something brand new, the language is going to be foreign, everything is going to be foreign, there's a lot to take in. So just write everything down as simple as you can, and the more you practice it, the more it's going to be rote, right? It's going to be up here. So, but if you find yourself out of your home and you can't get to your secondary location, and you're going into the woods, on your route to work, on your route to town, on your daily travels, folks, be that group that goes around. Think like them. Think like that group that goes around and pillaging, okay? Because that might be you. You might end up being a pillager. So you're going to, you know, I go right back to the eggs for sale, okay? The egg for sale sign on the end of somebody's driveway. Look for alternate escape routes. If you are away from home and something happens and it's not safe to go the main drag, you're going to need to know other routes on how to get home, folks, okay? It's, you know, that main route might be the fastest, but it might not be the safest. So you might end up being the scavenger. So it is so important that you know what is edible and what is not edible, what is medicinal and what is not medicinal, how to build a shelter, how to build a fire, how to cook on a fire, basic meals, maybe how to snare. Okay, snaring is illegal here in Maine, but when it comes to life or death in a disaster situation, if you need to feed your family, you know, snaring is going to go right out the window, right? So maybe that's something that you could research. It's not going to hurt at all to get a simple fishing reel, and because you can find worms anywhere. You can find crickets, you can find grasshoppers, you can find little earwigs, you can find bugs to use as bait. And that fish will give you something to eat. And now, it might be what we call scrap fish. You know, here in Maine, the scrap fish is sunfish, yellow perch, all of that. But it's going to be meat and it's going to be protein. Okay, so just a simple, maybe even a green branch with a thin string on the end of it, and you tie a hook on there, you know, like they did years ago in the Depression. They didn't have anything but a pole, a string, and they made a fish hook out of a safety pin, okay? And granted, they couldn't cast a long ways, but they could jig, okay? And we have another junk fish up here is chub. So even a chub on an empty belly is going to be good. So fishing is always a skill that we all should know how to do, and however simple you want to make it. So, you know, fishing, snaring, you know, there's a lot of ways you can go, but the more simple that you get, the more easy it is to prepare. Okay, if you have something that needs, you know, that has several moving workable parts, you know, there's a lot that can go wrong there, right? So if you have something very basic, very simple, and then there's less that can go wrong when you're using it. But if you're tired of prepping and need to take a step back, maybe you can do research. Maybe you can start practicing these skills. Maybe you can find a spot out in the woods if you have to abandon everything and you already know where to go, okay? But it's very important that you practice those skills. Practice them so much that it's rote up here, okay? And it shouldn't be only one person that knows how to do all this stuff. At least two people need to know how to do everything. So, you know, cover all your bases. Cover your bases. Maybe just like we all plan for if there's a house fire, right? We all have escape routes. We all have a place where we know to meet, right? If we're smart, we do. Okay? If we're on top of the game, then we know we have that all in place. So if something happens and you have to abandon your house, you need a meetup place, okay? And I'd hate to even think this, but if they're coming in and they're gonna take what they want and they're not gonna leave anybody behind, you need to be able to get out, and you need to find a place to hide, and you need to find a place to be safe. So this could get down an awful big rabbit hole, folks. But you're gonna have to be able to plan. And when you're tired of planning, do some research and just write it down all on paper and keep that notebook in a safe spot. I'm running low on camera juice, so battery juice, so I've got to make this short. But plan, research, practice those skills. Practice making that simple bread. Practice making those simple biscuits. Just practice until it's rote up here. Okay, it's got to be rote. So there's a good distraction to and from your daily travels. Look for places that you may be able to get food if you are in need of that food. Okay. Now I'm not saying that you need to go and you need to be a marauder. Okay. I'm not saying you need to do that, but you also are going to need to feed your own belly. Okay. So I guess that's it. It's snowing. I'm in the woodshed. I gotta grab an armload of wood, and I got the wrong gloves on, but I'm gonna grab an armload of wood anyway. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. The comments are just wonderful. Thank you so much. If you like anything of what I have to say, then you can like, share, and subscribe.